Have you ever noticed how some people seem to just light up as they get older?
Mhm.
Vibrant, connected, really full of life?
Yeah, definitely. While others, maybe the same age, seem to, well, shrink a bit, become more isolated, or, I don't know, just less happy.
Exactly. And it's that question really that sent us down the rabbit hole for this deep dive.
Hmm.
We've been digging into one specific source. It's a transcript from a YouTube video. The channel is Wise Elders,
Okay.
and the title is pretty provocative. 12 Ugly Things Seniors Do as They Age That No One Tells You.
Wow, okay. That title certainly grabs your attention.
It does.
But looking closer, it seems less about judgment, right?
Hmm.
More about highlighting these, like, subtle habits.
That's exactly it. Subtle, maybe unconscious habits that can kind of quietly develop and create distance or difficulty, often unintentionally.
Right. The source uses ugly more like things we don't want to see in ourselves, maybe.
I think so. So our mission here is to really unpack the insights from this source. What are these habits? How do they actually impact relationships, our well-being?
And crucially, what can we do about them? Because the source is quite clear. These are habits, and habits can be changed.
Yes, that's the hopeful part.
Yeah.
It lays out several traps, as it calls them, patterns that can undermine well-being.
And it highlights one in particular, number 7, doesn't it? It says it's something most people miss until it's cost them dearly.
Yeah, we definitely need to spend some time on that one. And the source uses the story of a woman named Sarah, a 71-year-old retired librarian, to kind of illustrate these points.
Ah, okay. So her journey is woven through it all.
Exactly.
And it feels like even though the focus is aging, these are probably, universal tendencies, things that just get more noticeable maybe.
I think that's right. So understanding them gives us takeaways, really, no matter our age, if we want more connection, a fuller life.
Absolutely. It's about fostering connection.
Okay, so let's dive in. The central idea, right? It's that small habits, things we might not even notice, can creep in and quietly create distance or unhappiness.
Yeah. But the good news, like you said, is they are habits. They're not fixed personality traits.
Right, they're learned behaviors,
Mhm.
which is empowering.
It really is. It's not about blame, it's about recognition. And the source suggests they often start very subtly.
Like the first one it talks about, becoming too negative or critical.
Yes. The transcript describes it as, starting with maybe just small complaints, a little grumble here and there.
Uh-huh.
But for Sarah, the example woman, it gradually became her default. She felt she was just speaking her mind. But it turned into negativity about daily life, the news, even like sharp comments about younger people.
Why do you think that happens? Does the source say?
It links it to, well, life changes, maybe physical aches and pains, sometimes feeling overwhelmed by things that feel different or uncomfortable, and venting can feel like a release at first.
But the impact sounds pretty significant.
Oh, huge, according to the source. They say negativity literally pulls people down, it pushes them away.
Mm.
Think about it. Conversations get shorter, maybe family avoids deeper topics. The source even mentions grandkids might start making excuses. It's like a shield, but one that isolates you.
And Sarah didn't see it at first.
No, she felt justified. But over time, she noticed the distance growing.
So if someone listening recognizes that tendency, maybe just a little bit,
Yeah.
what's the shift? How do you change it?
The source offers practical things, like try starting conversations positively, even something small, I woke up feeling pretty good, or that sunset was lovely.
Focus on gratitude.
Yes, exactly. Positive energy attracts. And if you do need to vent, maybe set a little time limit, a couple of minutes, then consciously shift gears.
And what about that idea of curiosity over criticism? Especially with, say, grandkids.
That's a big one. Instead of dismissing something you don't get, try asking, tell me more about that. Genuine curiosity opens doors. Criticism slams them shut.
Right.
Sarah found when she started doing this, showing interest, expressing gratitude conversations got longer, warmer. People opened up. She learned that the energy you put out really does come back.
That makes sense. Okay, what's next on the list?
Well, building on how we present ourselves, not just in conversation, but physically, the source talks about ignoring personal hygiene and appearance.
Ah, yeah. This one can feel a bit delicate.
It can, but the source makes a really important point. It's described as, maybe skipping hair appointments, always choosing baggy comfort clothes, not really looking in the mirror much.
And the thinking behind it is sort of, why bother? right? Not trying to impress anyone.
Exactly that mindset.
But the source says the impact goes much deeper than just how you look.
Absolutely. It affects how others see you, sure, but crucially how you see yourself. Sarah, the example, used to love dressing up.
Uh-huh.
As she let it go, she started feeling different inside, less confident. She noticed people treated her differently, maybe less eye contact, fewer invitations. She felt like she was losing herself. Looking at old photos was apparently quite jarring for her.
So it's really tied into self-worth then.
The source argues strongly that it is. It's about honoring yourself. And the way back isn't drastic, it's small steps. Like what? Like just getting dressed each day in clean clothes that fit okay. Simple acts of self-care. A shower, brushing your hair, maybe trimming your nails. Send a message to yourself. I am worth this effort.
Putting on things you actually like.
Yes, wearing something you love, maybe a splash of perfume, a favorite necklace, it helps you reconnect.
And did Sarah notice a difference when she started doing that again?
The source says definitely. She started small, brushing her hair nicely, wearing a favorite blouse, a bit of lipstick. She felt lighter, more confident. She actually felt beautiful again.
Wow.
And people responded. More smiles, she felt seen, she felt like herself again. The vibrant person was still there.
That's powerful. Okay, what's the third habit?
This one is becoming stubborn and resistant to change.
Being set in your ways.
Yeah.
Not wanting to try new things or new methods.
Exactly. The source frames it partly as a comfort zone thing, but maybe also a reaction to feeling like the world's changing too fast, leaving you behind. You hear that phrase, oh, I don't need all that.
Yeah, I know that one. But what's the cost of that resistance?
Isolation, again, it can really shut you off from loved ones. Sarah's story with texting is a perfect example.
Oh.
Her family started using it for everyday stuff, quick check-ins, photos. She resisted. I don't need to learn all that. But then phone calls became less frequent. She missed the casual group chats, the photos. She realized she wasn't just resisting technology, she was shutting herself off from connection, from the flow of family life.
So the antidote is openness, trying things.
The source really encourages just saying, okay, I'll try. Instead of an immediate no, start small. Let a grandchild teach you something simple on a phone or watch a show they like. Embrace change rather than rejecting it outright.
And Sarah eventually did try texting.
She did. Her granddaughter taught her. She was surprised it wasn't that hard, but even more surprised by the, quote, flood of connection that opened up.
Wow.
Daily photos, little jokes, quick thinking of you messages. She didn't just learn a skill, she regained access to a whole layer of connection with her family.
That connection theme really ties into the next one too, doesn't it? Hoarding and refusing to let go of clutter.
It does. This is described as, keeping tons of stuff. Maybe it's sentimental, maybe you promise you'll use it later, or the classic, just in case.
Letting go can feel really hard though. Those items hold memories.
Absolutely. The source acknowledges that. Things hold stories. Keeping them can feel comforting, even safe. Sarah was apparently very sentimental. Every little thing had a story. Old cards, newspapers, clothes she hadn't worn in years. I might need it someday.
But the impact the source describes sounds, well, heavy. Overwhelming.
It really does. The transcript uses words like maze, battlefield. It says clutter, suffocates peace and spirit. It's exhausting to live with, hard to find things, hard to keep clean.
And it leads to shame, maybe not wanting people over.
Yes. Feeling ashamed of your space. The source sees it as getting trapped in the past, creating mental stress too, like a constant weight. And then there's the physical risk falls, accidents.
So how do you start breaking free if you're in that situation?
Yeah.
It sounds daunting.
The key insight from the source is realizing that holding on keeps you stuck. Letting go creates space, physically and mentally. The advice is practical. Start small.
Like one drawer.
Exactly. One drawer, one shelf, one box. Ask those key questions. Do I actually use this? Does it bring me joy now? If not, let it go. Donate, recycle, pass it on. Maybe even make it a tiny habit, let go of one thing a day.
And Sarah went through this process.
She did. She decided to declutter, and the source describes this incredible feeling of weight lifting off her, both physically and emotionally.
Really?
Yeah. As she cleared space, her home felt peaceful, lighter, welcoming again. She felt free from the past, able to embrace the present. And importantly, she felt excited to have friends over again.
From physical clutter to maybe emotional clutter. What's next?
That's a good transition. The source talks about losing patience with others too quickly.
Getting easily irritated, snapping.
Being quick to judge minor things.
And the source links this to maybe the pace of life feeling different, things feeling slower.
That's part of it. Frustration when the world doesn't move at your speed or how you remember it moving.
But impatience just makes everything harder, doesn't it? For everyone involved.
The source says exactly that. It raises your own stress, clouds your judgment, and it can really poison interactions. Being quick to snap, slow to show grace.
There's an anecdote with Sarah here too, isn't there?
At the grocery store.
Yep.
The cashier was slow, and she felt that rising frustration. Why is he so slow? And she snapped, come on, can you hurry up?
Oh, dear.
She saw his face fall, his hands tremble, realized he was new, probably nervous. She felt this immediate pang of guilt, like, is this who I'm becoming?
So what's the counter strategy? How do you stop that impulse?
The source suggests a simple pause. Before reacting, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this really worth getting upset about?
And try to shift perspective.
Exactly. Remind yourself that people have reasons. That slow driver might be elderly, the cashier a student. Offer a smile instead, maybe a kind word like, take your time.
And Sarah applied this.
She did. The source says the next time she saw that same cashier, she made a point to smile and compliment him, tell him he was doing great. His face lit up. She realized the power in that small act of kindness. Patience, the source concludes, is a gift to yourself too. Less stress, better interactions, a calmer heart.
Okay, moving on. Habit number 6.
Over-talking and not listening.
Dominating the conversation. Always sharing your stories, your advice.
Right. The source suggests it often comes from a good place, wanting to share life lessons, accumulated wisdom. Maybe you've always been the storyteller.
But the unintended consequence. You said isolation earlier. How does sharing lead to isolation?
Because, according to the source, the people you love start to feel unheard. If every conversation turns back to you, they might become less likely to call, less likely to share anything deep or personal.
They just anticipate being talked over.
Kind of. Sarah's daughter actually told her this directly. She called less often, and when Sarah asked why, her daughter confessed, Mom, sometimes I just don't feel heard. The calls feel like they're all about you.
Ouch. That must have been hard to hear.
Sarah was stunned, the source says. She hadn't realized. She'd been so focused on sharing her perspective, she forgot to leave space for her daughters.
So the key is balance.
Absolutely. Balancing talking and listening. The source suggests is actively pausing after you speak. Ask a genuine question. What about you? Show real interest.
Resist interrupting.
Yes. Give them space. Ask open-ended questions too, like what was the highlight of your week? Not just things that get a yes-no answer.
And did Sarah manage to shift this with her daughter?
The source says yes. She made a conscious effort, listened more, asked more questions, gave her daughter the floor, only offered advice when asked.
Yeah.
Their conversations became longer, warmer, more meaningful. She rediscovered that connection simply by learning to listen better.
Okay, now we're at number 7. The one the source really emphasized, the surprising trap.
Yes, pushing people away instead of asking for help.
This one still feels so counterintuitive. Refusing help seems like strength, like independence.
And that's precisely why the source says it's so often missed and why it can be so damaging. It often stems from this fierce pride and independence. Maybe your whole identity is built on being the helper, the caregiver.
Right.
The source uses Sarah's grocery bag story again here. Struggling with a heavy bag, a young man offers help. Out of pride, she says, no, thank you, I've got it.
But the feeling afterwards wasn't strength, was it?
No, it was physical pain, yes, but also this wave of frustration and deep isolation. She pushed away kindness, connection, and felt utterly alone in that moment. The realization later, the source says, was painful. Refusing help wasn't making her stronger. It was cutting her off from the connections that could actually support her. It's choosing isolation.
So the source reframes asking for help as strength.
Completely. It argues that allowing someone to help isn't being a burden. It's giving them the gift of being able to care, to show love, to support you.
Yeah.
People want to help those they care about.
And if you always refuse?
They might eventually stop offering, which leads to loneliness, emotional starvation. Accepting help builds bridges, creates connection, shared moments. It makes life easier physically and emotionally. It reminds you we're not meant to do it all alone.
And there was that point about letting others feel useful.
Yeah, that was powerful. The source asks you to imagine a life where nobody ever needed your help. You'd feel unimportant, right? Letting others help gives them that feeling of being needed, of contributing.
So how did Sarah turn this one around?
It was a conscious decision. She promised herself she'd say yes next time, and she did. The next time she saw that same young man at the store, she smiled and said, Actually, I could use a little help today.
And his reaction?
His face brightened up. As he took the bag, she felt a weight lift, not just physically, but from her heart. She felt seen, valued, connected. The lesson was huge. It's okay to let others in. It's connection, not weakness.
That really does shift the perspective on independence. It's not about doing everything alone.
Not at all. True strength includes interdependence, the source suggests.
Okay, what's habit number 8?
This one is about money. Being too frugal to actually enjoy life.
Taking saving to an extreme.
Exactly. Constant couponing, skipping trips, hesitating on any non-essential purchase, always saving, 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 even when you might have enough.
And the driver is that worry, what if I need it later?
Yes, that gnawing worry, the source calls it. Fear of the unexpected. But it becomes a cycle of saving for.
What exactly?
The source had that line, security without fulfillment is empty.
That hits hard, doesn't it? The impact is you save for a one day that might never arrive, and you miss out on living now. You miss experiences that create lasting joy.
Sarah's story involved a trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was always careful with money, had savings, but worried constantly. Her friend Emily invited her on a weekend trip. Her first instinct: no, cost too much. She felt anxious just thinking about spending it.
But then she questioned it.
She did. She
Yeah.
looked at the invitation and thought, what if one day never comes? What am I saving for if I'm not living?
The source stresses balance. Financial responsibility is vital, of course, but the purpose of resources is to support a good life. Experiences travel, hobbies, time with loved ones, create memories that often outlast things. Enjoying the fruits of your labor honors your work.
So it's about giving yourself permission to enjoy it.
That's the core message. Permission to spend, permission to enjoy. Prioritize experiences that feed your soul. Maybe even set aside a specific fun fund.
And Sarah went on the trip.
She did. She said yes to Emily. The source says she laughed more than she had in months, felt the sun, tasted good food, enjoyed the company. Watching a sunset, she had this realization: this is what she saved for. Moments, memories, connection. Money is a tool for happiness, not just something to hoard. Life is now.
That's a great reminder. Okay, number 9.
This one is talking down to younger generations.
The back in my day thing.
Exactly. Constantly comparing now unfavorably to the past, dismissing younger people's experiences, their interests, their challenges.
And it comes from getting stuck in nostalgia.
The source suggests so. Fondly remembering the past, but letting it overshadow the present. But the impact is, well, it pushes people away.
Makes them feel dismissed, invalidated.
Precisely. It creates division, not understanding, builds a wall. Sarah apparently adored her grandson, Noah, but their visits became strained.
How so?
He was less eager to talk, spent more time on his phone. When he mentioned a new app he was using, Sarah sighed and went into the back in my day, kids played outside routine.
Oh, no.
Noah just went quiet, mumbled about leaving soon. Sarah felt that sting of regret later. She didn't mean to push him away, but her words, meant perhaps his wisdom, just felt dismissive to him.
Makes them feel like their lives don't measure up.
Yeah, that their experiences or challenges aren't valid compared to the past.
So the alternative is curiosity again.
Curiosity and respect. Instead of dismissing, ask, that sounds interesting, tell me more. Make a real effort to understand their world. Ask questions that show you value their perspective. Lift them up, offer support, meet them where they are.
And Sarah tried this with Noah.
She did. The next time he mentioned something new, she took a breath, chose curiosity, asked questions, listened to his explanation about a game strategy.
And they connected.
They did. Through mutual respect, not criticism, the conversation flowed. The source reminds us, sometimes it's just about trying to see the world through their eyes for a bit.
Okay, so those are the main habits. But the source mentioned a couple of other related points, too.
Yes, beyond those 9. One was holding on to grudges and regrets.
Carrying that heavy weight of past hurts.
Exactly. Dwelling on old injustices or betrayals, the source says it literally steals your present joy, clouds your view, makes the world seem dimmer.
And the impact on relationships.
It erodes them. Bitterness builds walls. It can harden into anger, leaving you feeling alone even if people are around. And the physical toll is real too. Stress, high blood pressure, poor sleep, weakened immunity. You can't escape the consequences.
So how do you let go of something like that? It sounds hard.
It is hard. The source suggests starting with accepting the past can't change, then shift the focus. What can I learn from this? That gives you back some power. Forgiveness is key, not for the other person necessarily, but for yourself.
To release their power over you.
Exactly. It sets you free. It's an act of courage. redirecting thoughts to the positive present, maybe writing that letter, getting it all out, then destroying it symbolically. The source is adamant. You owe yourself this freedom.
And Sarah did this.
Yes, the source mentions her deciding to let go of old hurts, writing them all down in a letter, then releasing them. She felt immediately lighter, freer.
Wow. What was the other related point?
This one feels very practical but crucial. Ignoring health problems.
Brushing off those little symptoms, telling yourself it's nothing.
Right. The source calls it a convenient escape, maybe denial, telling yourself it's just aging.
Why do people do that? Fear, busyness.
Probably a mix. Too busy, maybe focused elsewhere, forgetting to listen to our bodies. Or, yes, sometimes fear of what the doctor might say.
But the source is pretty blunt about the danger.
Very. It says it can be downright dangerous. Small symptoms are often warning signs. Dizziness could be dehydration, or it could be a stroke sign. Tiredness could be lack of sleep or heart disease. Delaying means small problems become big crises. Ignoring signs doesn't make them go away.
It's waiting for the fire instead of preventing it.
That's a perfect analogy. Prevention is always easier. The source calls prevention a gift of self-love and care we often overlook. Sarah apparently learned this the hard way.
Through her fall.
Yes, the fall was a wake-up call. She realized she had been ignoring things like dizziness, dismissing it as just aging. The pain forced her to confront it.
So she made changes.
She promised herself she wouldn't ignore signs anymore, started listening to her body, drinking more water, taking balance classes, regular checkups. The source makes a great point.
Yeah.
Doing this wasn't giving up independence, it was embracing it by taking responsibility for her well-being before a crisis.
That feels like a really direct message for anyone listening.
It really does. The source practically asks, are you ignoring something your body's telling you? Don't wait. Your health is foundational. Take action, even small action. You deserve to feel vibrant, and that starts with listening to the whispers.
Okay. Through all of this, there was an underlying theme the source kept coming back to, wasn't there? Especially at the end.
Yes, absolutely. The idea of choosing joy.
Not just waiting for joy to happen, but actively choosing it.
Exactly. It's a conscious choice. Seeking out laughter, embracing simple pleasures, finding things that light you up.
And laughter itself is described as being beneficial, like medicine.
Very much so. The source lists the benefits: lower stress, boosts immunity, improves circulation, even helps memory. Plus, it connects us, strengthens bonds, reminds us we can still feel young at heart. It's about intentionally living with joy.
Sarah's story seemed to really culminate in this, right?
It did. The source describes her looking at old photos, seeing herself laughing, dancing, truly joyful. She realized she'd stopped seeking that. Life had become routine, maybe a bit dull. Then her friend Emily invited her to that movie night. She almost didn't go, but she said yes. And during the movie, the source says, laughter just bubbled up from deep inside her. A part of her woke up. The joy she thought was gone was still there.
That sounds like a real turning point for her.
It was huge. She remembered what it felt like to laugh like that. She left Emily's feeling so much lighter. The insight was clear. Joy isn't stumbled upon, it's chosen.
She acted on it.
The very next morning, she put on music and danced in her kitchen. That moment, choosing laughter, choosing joy, was the start of something beautiful.
It really emphasizes it's never too late to make that choice.
Never. That's the final message from the source on this. Don't wait for the perfect moment for joy. Create it. Choose joy.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, really digging into this source, looking at these subtle habits, negativity, resistance to change, clutter, impatience, over-talking.
How really surprising one about refusing help.
Yes. And excessive frugality, talking down to others.
Yeah.
Plus those key points on grudges and health.
And Sarah's story brought it all to life, didn't it? Showing how these things take root, the impact they have, but also the incredible power of deciding to change.
It's such a strong reminder that, yeah, the source talks about aging, but these are really universal human things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Affecting any of us.
Absolutely. The core lessons feel like they're about self-awareness, first and foremost. Understanding how our habits affect us and others. Then finding the courage for those small shifts, realizing how vital connection is, and ultimately, empowering ourselves to choose how we show up.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like it's about judging ourselves or others. It feels more like recognizing patterns that might be holding us back and giving ourselves the permission and maybe some tools to choose connection, peace, and joy instead.
That's a perfect summary. And the source leaves us with a very direct challenge, actually. A question for you, the listener, to think about. It feels like the right place to end.
Okay, what's the question?
It asks, what's one lesson you've learned today that you're committed to practicing moving forward?
That's a good one to sit with. Just one thing. What's one small shift you could make, starting today, based on everything we've explored in this deep dive?